At the bottom of the planet, there is a silence so wide it seems to swallow thought. No villages, no forests, no old walls, no roads worn by feet, just a continent of ice, bigger than Europe, sleeping around a pole the sun forgets for months and then refuses to leave for months more. From space it looks simple, white disk, blue ring, swirling storms. Up close it is anything but simple. Ice stacked on ice, wind carving snow into waves higher than a person, mountains rising straight out of glaciers, sea turned to glass and then to teeth. It is the youngest place in human history and the oldest in cold. Antarctica is not just covered in ice, it is made of it. A sheet more than 4 kilometers thick in places presses down on rock we barely know. If all of it melted, oceans everywhere would climb the walls of cities. The ice holds 70% of the world's fresh water, locked, silent. It did not arrive at once. Snow fell, did not melt, was pressed by its own weight, turned to firn, then to ice, layer on layer on layer, each winter riding on top of the last. In some places you can drill down and read 800,000 years of breath, bubbles of ancient air, trapped like insects in amber. The cold here is not a bad day in the north. It is system-level cold. On the high plateau of East Antarctica, where the air is dry and thin and never sees the ocean, temperatures can drop below 80 degrees Celsius. Your breath freezes on your lashes, metal cracks, fuel thickens, sound carries strangely in the thin air. Closer to the coasts, the sea and storms soften it, but even mild is 10-15 wind, screaming at 50 knots, dragging spindrift like smoke across the ice. There are no trees to break the gusts, no hills except the ice itself, so the wind just runs. Katabatic winds, heavy cold air sliding downhill from the plateau to the sea, daily, relentless. Yet, for all its hardness, Antarctica moves. The ice sheet is not fixed, it is a very slow river. Snow that falls in the interior begins a centuries-long journey outward, creeping under its own weight toward the coast at a few meters a year, faster in ice streams, wide hidden highways in the ice, until it reaches the sea and breaks. Where the ice flows out over the ocean but remains attached, it forms shelves, floating platforms the size of countries, the Ross Ice Shelf, the Filchner Ronne, flat white horizon to horizon. At the edges, great slabs calve, icebergs, blue-white, taller than buildings, longer than cities, setting off on migrations no one guides. Around this frozen core, the Southern Ocean rolls, a cold, circling barricade. Unlike other seas, it is not hemmed by continents. It flows all the way around the Earth, west to east, dragged on by roaring winds, the furious 50s, the screaming 60s. This circumpolar current is a moat of cold water, keeping Antarctica isolated, keeping warm currents out. Without it, the continent would be smaller, wetter, maybe even green in places. With it, Antarctica stays a freezer that cools the planet. Life, somehow, said yes to this. Along the fringes, where ice meets sea, summer for a few weeks turns black water into a banquet. The sun does not set, light beats down all day. Microscopic plants, phytoplankton, explode in number. Krill rise from the depths to feed. And then everything answers, penguins porpoising through leads in the ice, whales blowing mist in the cold air, seals draped on floes like spilled oil. On rocky headlands, the snow melts just enough to expose stone, and there, in pink and guano and noise, great penguin colonies set up their short, furious season of nesting. Inland, it is almost sterile. No soil, no insects, no smell. Only a few stubborn microbes in the snow, algae on wet rocks, patches of moss and lichen on the warmest, most northern coasts, and even they living at glacial speed. The interior is so dry it is called a polar desert. Some valleys in the transantarctic mountains haven't seen rain in thousands of years. There, ice is absent, not because it is warm, but because the cold is so dry and the wind so constant that snow sublimes, goes straight from solid to vapor. It looks like Mars, bare rock, patterned ground, frozen lakes under ice lids. Humans came late, not because it was far, though it is, but because there was no promise here, no spices, no gold, no farmland, no ports. Only in the 19th century did sealers and whalers push far enough south to see the true ice barrier. In the early 20th, curiosity, national pride, and the last age of heroic exploration drove ships through pack ice and men onto the continent. Scott, Amundsen, Shackleton, names burned into the snow. Sledges, dogs, canvas tents, wool coats, frostbite, navigation by sun in a place of blizzards. One of them, Amundsen, reached the South Pole first in 1911. Scott reached it weeks later and died on the return. Shackleton never even meant to reach the pole in his most famous voyage. His ship was crushed, he led his men across ice and storm to safety, proof that survival here is glory enough. Today, flags still stand at the pole, but conquest has shifted into presence. Stations dot the coasts and a few brave points inland. McMurdo on Ross Island, Argentina's Esperanza, Chile's Presidente Frei, France and Italy's Concordia high on the plateau, the U.S. Amundsen Scott at the very pole itself. In summer, planes and icebreakers link them. Scientists in bright parkas step out into the white to drill, measure, listen. In winter, the continent pulls its hood down, darkness for months, temperatures that break instruments. Only skeleton crews remain, caretakers of experiments that cannot be switched off. Telescopes drinking the clear, cold sky, seismometers listening to the Earth, detectors capturing particles from space. Antarctica is the only continent with no native people, no country, no army. Instead, it has a treaty, signed in 1959, still holding, that says, "This place is for peace and science. The territorial claims are put in the freezer like everything else, that no one will test weapons here, that knowledge is to be shared." On a planet that argues over everything, an entire landmass is being held in trust. That, too, is a kind of circle the coast, and you find that Antarctica is never one single white. It is a chain of ice architectures. First comes the pack ice, a drifting skin of frozen ocean broken into floes that grind and tilt, closing and opening like a breathing thing. In winter, it spreads outward hundreds of kilometers, more than doubling the size of the continent. In summer, it retreats, but never cleanly. Pressure ridges rise where floes collide, blue cores laid bare, slabs as tall as houses. Between them, narrow leads of black water steam in the cold, lifelines for seals and whales, highways for penguins. Then you hit the ice shelves. They are Antarctica's grand stages, flat, hard, miles thick, floating but still attached to land ice. Stand on the Ross Ice Shelf or the Filchner Rhone, and you stand on frozen sea the size of Spain, silent as a cathedral. Beneath you, hundreds of meters down, ocean rolls in slow green darkness. Above you, wind writes ripples in sastrugi, snow dunes in repeating patterns, as if the continent were making its own fingerprints. At the calving fronts, where shelves meet the open ocean, the edge shears off in slow violence. A crack opens, spreads for months, then, in one white sigh, an iceberg is born. Tabular, flat-topped, sheer-walled, it sets out into the southern ocean, a floating cliff with its own weather. Where mountains interrupt this frozen rim, the continent shows bone. The Transantarctic Mountains run almost coast to coast, 3,000 kilometers of uplift that split East Antarctica from west. Their peaks punch through the ice like dark teeth, Nunatak standing in fields of snow. Glaciers spill between them toward the sea in frozen rivers tens of kilometers wide. Bird Glacier, Skelton, Farrar, Beardmore, names from the age of sledges. Their surfaces look still, but satellite eyes see them creeping, cracking, accelerating where their feet meet warm water. Each glacier is a question. Will it hold? How fast will it thin? What happens to the shelf it feeds? Nowhere are those questions sharper than in West Antarctica. Unlike the high, old, cold East, much of the West sits on bedrock that lies below sea level. That makes it vulnerable. Glaciers like Pine Island and Thwaites flow into embayments where relatively warm, deep water from the Southern Ocean can sneak under the ice shelves that buttress them, melting them from beneath, thinning the lid, letting the glacier behind speed up. Scientists call Thwaites the Doomsday Glacier, not because it is collapsing today, but because its geometry hints at marine ice sheet instability. Once retreat starts on a retrograde bed, it can keep going, pouring land ice into the sea for centuries. The West Antarctic ice sheet is small compared to the East, but if it went, seas worldwide would feel it. To understand these slow disasters, or to prove they may not be disasters at all, researchers build observatories on the unlikeliest of platforms. On the sea ice, they drill through meters of frozen water to drop instruments into black depths, measuring temperature, salinity, currents. On ice shelves, they lower robot submarines, yellow and blinking, to map the hidden undersides of the floating ice. On the plateau, they set up automatic weather stations that take wind and temperature readings in places no person will visit for years. Radar sleds, towed behind snow machines, send radio pulses through ice and listen for echoes from bedrock, making maps of a continent we cannot see. Each measurement is small. Together, they let us watch an ice sheet breathe. And while the scientists work, the living coast gets on with its own summer. At the Antarctic Peninsula, that long, crooked finger pointing toward South America, the climate softens just enough to invite abundance. Here is where most people meet Antarctica for the first time. In narrow blue straits walled with glaciers, in bays where icebergs drift like sculpture, in rookeries of Adelie, chinstrap, and Gentoo penguins. They come ashore in crowds, waddling with purpose, bellies muddy from tobogganing over snow, carrying pebbles to build their nests on bare rock. Skua gulls patrol overhead, pirates of the rookery, watching for an egg unguarded. The noise is constant, braying, honking, arguing. The smell is unforgettable, guano and salt and life. Just offshore, the real engine churns, krill. Tiny, translucent, pinkish crustaceans feeding on phytoplankton under the ice, schooling by the billions. Everything eats krill. Penguins stuff their beaks with it for their chicks. Crab-eater seals, despite the name, have teeth shaped like sieves to filter it out of the water. Leopard seals, long and reptilian, hunt penguins in the shallows and krill when there are no penguins. Humpback, minke, and fin whales rise from migrations thousands of kilometers long, open their pleated jaws, and engulf clouds of krill, the energy of Antarctica flowing straight into blubber and song. In these weeks of 24-hour light, the food web is like a great festival. By autumn, most of it will be gone north. But Antarctica is not only coast and shelf. Tucked between two arms of the Transantarctic Mountains on the coast of the Ross Sea lie the McMurdo Dry Valleys, the continent's paradox. Here, the katabatic winds scream downhill at 100 km/h, so dry and fierce they sublime any snow that tries to settle. The result? Open ground in Antarctica. Brown, red, gray soils patterned by freeze-thaw, boulders dropped by ancient glaciers, rocky slopes under a very hard sky. Lakes sit in the valley floors. Lake Vanda, Lake Bonny, Lake Frixel, covered with ice lids several meters thick, liquid water beneath, fed by tiny summer melt streams. Microbial mats grow slowly in that cold water, orange and green, worlds within worlds. To planetary scientists, it is a lab for Mars. To biologists, proof that life can endure on crumbs of energy. Along the coasts of East Antarctica, the story is harder, lonelier. Katabatic winds scour the ice, sea ice stays longer, shelves are larger. Emperor penguins, the tallest and the only birds to breed in midwinter darkness, huddle there on the sea ice, eggs balanced on their feet, bodies in tight circles to save heat at 40 degrees, cycling so that no bird stays on the outer ring too long. In August, when the sun returns, chicks are already growing, small black and white bundles on top of father's feet. That a species chose to do this here, at the world's farthest cold, feels like a dare to biology. All of this, drifting pack, creaking shelves, noisy rookeries, secret lakes, heroic emperors, is bound together by cold and by the ocean that circles it. Antarctica's edge is busy and full of motion. Its heart is still and indifferent. Between them runs a gradient of life and ice that no other continent can match. Go inland and the color drains away. The blue of the sea, the yellow lichens on coastal rocks, the pink penguin rookeries, all gone. What's left is white and shadow. This is the high Antarctic Plateau, a place where direction barely matters because everything looks the same and everything is hostile in exactly the same way. The horizon is a line of milk. The sky is pale, thin, often full of diamond dust, tiny ice crystals hanging in the air, flashing suns and halos around your shadow. Sound is swallowed. There are no landmarks, so people make them. Bamboo flags every few hundred meters, black drums half buried in snow, GPS tracks on screens glowing in the darkened cabins of snow tractors. Here sits Dome C, Dome A, Vostok, Amundsen Scott, names that sound like abstractions, but are really dots of human heat on a frozen desert. At the South Pole Station, the sun rises once in September and sets once in March. For 6 months it walks around the horizon, never high, burning the skin even at 35 degrees. For 6 more months it is gone, and the world is violet, then black, then filled with stars so numerous you could navigate from memory. In that darkness, the station glows green and orange, a spaceship in reverse. Instead of orbiting the planet, it anchors to it at its axis. Why stay here? Because Antarctica gives up secrets reluctantly, and the middle is where the best secrets are. The air over the plateau is cleaner than any lab, perfect for astronomy. Telescopes looking for the faint microwave echo of the Big Bang stare through an atmosphere that is dry, stable, cold. Instruments listen for neutrinos, ghost particles flying through the Earth from cosmic events, by burying detectors in the ice itself. On the coast, at the Ice Cube Observatory, thousands of light sensors sit in boreholes, turning a cubic kilometer of ice into a telescope. Glaciologists drill deep cores, white cylinders 10 centimeters across and 3 kilometers long, each layer a year, each impurity a story. Volcanic eruptions, desert dust from Africa blown around the world, industrial pollution reaching even this. When they read the ratios of oxygen isotopes, they see climate breathing, ice ages, warmings, pauses over almost 1 million years. Even rock, mostly hidden, has tails. Radar and gravity surveys have revealed Gamburtsev Mountains buried beneath East Antarctica, an entire alpine-scale range we would never have known about if ice didn't let radar pass. Lakes lie under the ice too, unfrozen not by sun but by pressure and geothermal heat. The greatest of these is Lake Vostok, the size of a great European lake, sealed off from the atmosphere for at least 100,000 years, maybe much more. Scientists drilled carefully down, terrified of contaminating it, because what lives there, microbes adapted to darkness, cold, high pressure, odd chemistries, could tell us how life survives in places like Jupiter's moon Europa. Antarctica is thus not only a model for Mars, it is a model for the icy oceans of the outer solar system. Life up top on the plateau itself is almost absent. A few snow petrels sometimes wander from cliffs near the coast. Microscopic algae may bloom red or green on summer snow near stations, fed by wind-blown nutrients. But for the most part, the interior is beyond biology. This is why early explorers feared it. If anything breaks, if anything goes wrong, there's nothing to eat, nothing to burn, nothing to hide behind. The wind can build a drift over your door in an hour. Visibility can go from infinite to 1 meter in 30 seconds. This is where Scott's men dragged their sledges into whiteout, where the great overland traverses in the 1950s and 60s moved like ants across a blank map, dropping fuel depots, planting flags, proving it could be done. Weather here is its own kingdom. Katabatic winds start high on the dome, where air gets heavy from cooling and slides downwards under gravity. As it descends, it accelerates, collecting more air, more speed, until it roars through coastal valleys at hurricane force. Blizzards don't need clouds, just blowing snow lifted from the surface, turning the world to milk. Temperatures can plummet 20 degrees in an afternoon. A sundog, twin ghosts of the sun caused by ice crystals, can hang in the sky for hours, making the world look unreal. On very rare days when the wind rests and the sun is high, the plateau is almost kind. A vast, sparkling plain, the crunch of snow under boots, the station's generator a faint hum. Those days fool you into thinking it's normal. It isn't. Despite the harshness, Antarctica has an unexpected sense of international neighborhood. At coastal stations in summer, you might find Norwegians testing drones, Koreans running labs, Argentinians making empanadas, Americans flying LC-130 ski planes, New Zealanders fixing snow groomers, Italians pulling ice cores, Chinese logistics teams unloading cargo, Russians maintaining old diesel. On midwinter, when there is no way in or out, crews in different stations across 3,000 kilometers will still radio or email each other. Greetings. Participate in the midwinter dinner tradition inherited from the British. Formal meal, decorations, speeches, photos with penguin costumes in places where no penguins exist. On the most isolated continent, community is an act, not an accident. And beyond all human lines stands the Antarctic Treaty system, holding this strange peace together. It keeps military activity out, keeps nuclear tests out, regulates fishing in the Southern Ocean, protects seals and birds and even some pieces of historic huts left by Shackleton and Scott. It requires that science be shared. It says no single flag here can push the others aside. That matters because under the ice there are minerals, hydrocarbons, fresh water, resources that would cause arguments anywhere else. Here, for now, the ice wins. The continent remains a laboratory, a warning, and a mirror. Antarctica looks untouched, but the edges of the continent remember every human that ever came. Long before scientists built domes on the ice, hunters came for oil. At the turn of the 19th-20th centuries, the Southern Ocean was a factory without walls. Steam-powered catcher boats chased humpbacks, fins, blues close to the pack ice. Floating factories boiled blubber into oil for lamps, margarine, industry. On South Georgia, on the South Shetlands, on Deception Island, a flooded volcano with a harbor in its crater, whaling stations smoked day and night. Whales were so plentiful and so unafraid that some crews called it harvesting. Within decades, it became searching. The biggest animal that has ever lived, the blue whale, was almost erased from southern waters. Seals had felt that pressure even earlier. Fur seals on subantarctic islands were driven nearly to extinction for pelts. Elephant seals were taken for oil. Many rookeries went silent. Only when markets shifted and regulations appeared in the 20th century did the populations begin to creep back. Today, you can land on South Georgia and see crowded beaches of king penguins, fur seals, elephant seals fighting like drunken gladiators, and know that a century ago, the same beaches stank of boilers and death. Antarctica does not heal quickly, but it heals if you stop hurting it. That lesson sits at the core of the Antarctic Treaty and its later environmental protocols. In 1959, 12 nations, bitter rivals in other arenas, agreed that south of 60 degrees, there would be no war, no weapons testing, no nuclear explosions, free science, and frozen territorial claims. In 1991, they added the Madrid Protocol, which made the whole continent a natural reserve devoted to peace and science and banned mining. That ban matters. Under the ice are ores and hydrocarbons, and in a warming world, fresh water itself is value. For now, by treaty, they stay locked. Inspections, reporting, and the self-interest of states that want stability all help keep it that way. But not all pressures come from spears or drills. A hotter planet reaches even here. Sea ice around Antarctica is not as steadily declining as in the Arctic. Some decades it even grew. But in recent years, it has shown sharp, puzzling drops, especially in winter extent. Ice shelves along the peninsula have collapsed suddenly. Larsen A in 1995, Larsen B in 2002, chunks of Larsen C in 2017, thousands of square kilometers of floating ice gone in weeks. Because shelves already float, their disappearance does not raise sea level directly, but it removes the buttress that slowed the glaciers behind. After Larsen B vanished, glaciers feeding it sped up several-fold. Warmer air causes meltwater on the surface. Meltwater seeps into cracks and pries them open. Warmer ocean water nibbles from below. Two attacks, top and bottom. Wildlife feels the warmth too, not dramatically everywhere, but clearly along the Antarctic Peninsula, one of the fastest warming places on Earth in the late 20th century. Adelie penguins, the classic ice breeders, need sea ice nearby and krill in predictable places. As winters shorten and sea ice forms later, some Adelie colonies on the North Peninsula have crashed. At the same time, Gentoo penguins, more flexible and more northern in habits, have moved in and expanded. So on the same beach, you can watch one species retreat and another thrive, climate change written in feathers. Krill fisheries, legal and regulated, also operate in the Southern Ocean. If they ever expand in the wrong place at the wrong time, they could steal food from penguins and whales at the end of the world. Tourism is the softest, loudest presence. Every austral summer, expedition cruise ships push through the Scotia Sea from Ushuaia or Punta Arenas, cross the Drake Passage, and nose into bays with names explorers gave them: Paradise Harbor, Neko, Orne. People step from rubber zodiacs onto snow and gasp at cliffs of ice, at penguins completely unbothered by them, at whales surfacing under glaciers. The tourism industry, through IAATO, polices itself hard. Clean boots, no food ashore, limited numbers per landing, distances from wildlife, decontamination to prevent alien seeds and pathogens. But feet are feet. A boot that walked through guano on one island can move microbes to another. A dropped glove can be blown deep inland. So every landing is a negotiated miracle. Let people fall in love with Antarctica so they will protect it without letting their love hurt it. Meanwhile, the Southern Ocean has become one of the most tightly managed seas. The Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, CCAMLR, sets quotas for toothfish sold as Chilean sea bass, krill, and other species, and has created large marine protected areas, including around the Ross Sea. The goal is to keep the Antarctic food web intact, to leave enough krill for whales, enough fish for seals, enough breathing space for penguins, while allowing some sustainable harvest. It is science-led, international, and imperfect, and it is one of the few places on Earth where such management still has a real chance. All the while, Antarctica is giving us data we cannot get elsewhere. Its ice cores say the planet has swung from ice ages to warm periods many times, but never this fast when CO2 was this high. Its glaciers say when shelves thin, ice speeds up, and that extra ice does raise seas. Its penguin colonies say ecosystems can pivot in a decade. Its collapsing ice tongues say thresholds exist, and its unchanging interior says even in the quietest, coldest heart of Earth, human signals, lead, soot, greenhouse gases still arrive. So the last white frontier is not just a place of purity, it is a giant amplifier. What happens in the rest of the world is echoed here in ice, in water, in birds. And what happens here will be echoed back as higher seas, altered ocean circulation, changed weather. The continent that belonged to no one turns out to be everyone's business. Stand on the deck of a ship in the austral summer night, which isn't really night, just a softer blue, and the continent feels almost kind. The sea is flat, bergs drift like sleeping giants, distant mountains are purple, a line of penguins arrow past, and the sun circles lazily just above the horizon. It's easy to believe Antarctica is eternal, that this white architecture will stay like this forever. It won't. It has not, even in deep time. The ice has advanced and retreated, shelves have grown and vanished, oceans have warmed and cooled. What is new is us, watching it in real time and knowing that what we do thousands of kilometers away can hasten or slow what the ice decides to do. Antarctica is often called Earth's air conditioner. That's not poetry, it's mechanics. Its bright snow and ice bounce back a huge portion of the sun's energy. Its cold, salty waters sink and help drive the global conveyor belt of currents that move heat and nutrients around the world. Its sea ice forms each winter, pushing salt into surrounding waters, making them denser so they sink, stirring layers. Change the white, darken it with melt ponds, shrink it, replace it with ocean, and you change how much heat the planet keeps. Change the shelves and glaciers, and you change how fast seas rise. Change the Southern Ocean, and you change where winds and storms go in the Southern Hemisphere. Antarctica is far, but it's also upstream of almost everything. That's why the work done here is watched so closely. When a rift opens across an ice shelf, satellites record every meter. When a warm eddy spins into the Amundsen Sea, oceanographers track it. When a penguin colony fails to fledge chicks because sea ice broke up too soon, biologists publish it. When sea ice extent hits a record low, climate modelers compare it to their simulations and ask what they missed. The continent has become a living instrument panel for Earth's climate, covered in sensors human and mechanical. Even in winter, when ships retreat and planes stop, automatic stations keep taking readings, relaying them by satellite through the dark. But Antarctica is not only science and warning, it is also beauty in a severe register. Icebergs with blue glass windows and emerald caves, pressure ridges glowing pink at midnight, a pod of orcas spy-hopping between floes like black needles stitching the sea. A blizzard sweeping across the shelf and revealing, in one white breath, how small even the biggest ship is. An emperor penguin standing alone on a plate of ice, back to the wind, completely at home in a place built to repel life. A rusting hut on Ross Island with sledge harnesses still hanging where Shackleton left them, socks still on bunks, biscuits still in tins, everything freeze-dried by a century of cold. Human time paused by polar time. And there is silence, not the absence of sound, but the presence of a space large enough to hold very little. On a calm day in the dry valleys, you can hear your own clothes. On the plateau at 50° TC, you can hear ice crystals skitter across hard snow. On the sea ice at dawn, you can hear Weddell seals singing under your feet, long sci-fi notes echoing through the frozen ocean. In those moments, Antarctica stops being remote and becomes immediate, almost intimate, because nothing stands between you and the planet's raw machinery. The future of this machinery will be written in 3 converging lines. First, warming. How much carbon the world emits, how high temperatures climb, and whether the Southern Ocean continues to shield the continent or starts to deliver more heat beneath its ice shelves. Second, ice dynamics. Whether West Antarctica's vulnerable glaciers remain buttressed or swing into faster flow, whether shelves like Ross and Filchner Ronne stay stable, whether marine ice cliff failures, towering fronts collapsing under their own weight, begin to happen more often. Third, governance. Whether the Antarctic Treaty continues to hold under resource and geopolitical pressure, whether protected areas expand, whether tourism stays disciplined, whether krill fisheries stay small and smart. There is reason for guarded hope. Few places on Earth have such a strong legal shield. Few scientific communities collaborate as naturally as the polar one does, because you cannot survive here without each other. Few environments are as obviously worth protecting as a whole. And the continent itself fights on our side. It is hard to reach, expensive to stay on, cruel to the careless. Antarctica turns away the half-committed. So what is Antarctica, finally? It is a memory vault of Earth's atmosphere, a mirror for our emissions, a workshop for astronomers and glaciologists, a nursery for penguins and whales, a test of international cooperation, a warning siren for sea level rise, and a cathedral of ice where wind, light, and water are the only permanent citizens. No one is born here and grows old here. No language started here. No empire rose here. And yet the decisions made about it, far away, in warm conference rooms, will shape coastlines, fisheries, weather, and even the character of exploration in the 21st century. We are, for now, good guests. We come in summer, we measure, we watch, we leave, we sign that we will not drill, we clean our boots. Antarctica lets us. It even offers, in those blue nights, a kind of reward, the sense that you have reached the end of the map and found not monsters, not gold, but the Earth itself, unadorned. The last white frontier is not the edge of the world. It is the edge of what the world will let us take for granted.